Hi, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to my sewing room. This is So Be It. This week, we will be making Simplicity 1544, the men's top. In this video, I will actually be making version D, but with one pocket, as in version A, without the contrast. Version A has the contrast, version D does not. The shirt that you will get to see me make on the video is this black and gray plaid. I got it at JoAnn's. This is one of the soft plaids, so I want to say this is the Eddie Bauer plaid that they have, but it could be one of their Plaiditudes. I will also be making a second shirt, and it really will be version A, because I do have a contrast. You'll get to see that at the end of the video. So the majority of the shirt will be the brown and orange plaid. This is a Plaiditudes from JoAnn's. And then the contrast will be this gray. It's a little bit of a houndstooth-ish or zigzag pattern. Not gray, that's orange. I know my colors. So that will be the second shirt. So I am all ready to go. Get the directions out. I have all of the pattern pieces and the interfacing cut. Most likely I'm going to go ahead and start off with the interfacing, but I may not. This seems to be a little bit of a, for me it's a confusing pattern because I haven't actually made this kind of shirt yet. And I've only done the mock-up, which was like half of the steps of this shirt. There's a lot of different steps for this construction. So I guess we'll actually just see how it goes. So I have everything cut out for the shirt and ready to go. The buttons that I'm using, I'm not using buttons on the black shirt. I'm using these pearlized snaps. I've never put snaps on anything before, so I got myself one of these little tools to go ahead and put the snaps on. And I will be practicing with some scrap fabric to see how it all works out since I've never done it before. So the first step is to stay stitch the neckline of the front of the shirt. I have to stay stitch the front and then the yoke back. So the neckline of the front and the yoke back. So the next step of our shirt is to make the pocket. I did actually cut 2 pockets. You're only supposed to cut 1, and I think I will be putting both pockets on, so it'll be similar to D, but not quite. I'll actually clarify if I'm going to use 1 pocket or 2, because I am going to ask my husband if he would like 1 pocket or 2 on his shirt. But to go ahead and prepare our pocket, if you look at the pattern, we have a fold line at the upper side of the pocket. So what we have to do is to press that, don't press that, press the upper edge of the pocket under 1/4 inch, and then turn the upper edge to the outside along the fold line, forming a facing. I will then stitch along the seam line on the raw edges, just a straight stitch. Trim the seam allowances in the facing area to 1/4, and then we'll turn the top right side out so it's like a facing for the actual pocket. We will press and press under the raw edges along the stitching, and then I will stitch the facing closed to as far as I can to the inner edge. And then on the outside of the front of the shirt, I will pin the pocket at the upper corners and then stitch close to the side on the lower edges. That doesn't make sense though. Aren't my edges going to be raw? No, I missed a step. When I or when I turn the top of the pocket, the facing in, I will then also turn under those raw edges and stitch those so that there will be no raw edges in the pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and work on those pockets. So I will be doing 2 pockets on the shirt. So I have to go ahead and press the top of this down and then fold it over the wrong way and stitch these side seams and the bottom just so that it gives me an easy line to go ahead and press to tuck that raw edge under. I will be doing both pockets because my husband said he would like 2. So then once those are attached to the shirt, I will be back. The next step is to do the back tab. So I have the inner facing on the facing side and they are pinned right sides together at the moment. So now I have this, I have to stitch in 3/8 of an inch, but keep the ends open past the small dots. Next thing is to trim the seam and the corners of this. That's done, and then turn tab right side out and press. I stitched the wrong one. I'm not supposed to stitch this. I'm supposed to stitch the sides. I will be back. All right, I got it right now. So I've got it stitched along the edges here. We will go ahead and turn it right side out. Press this. I will be top stitching. Didn't have that on. I have the shirt, the back of the shirt, sandwiched between the front and back sides of the yoke with the right sides together. So the next step is to stitch the seam and press it up. Next step for the shirt is to stitch the shoulder seams front and back together. Okay, so now I'm to the point where I found the directions to be quite confusing. So you do sew the front and back shoulder seams as you would any normal shirt. But then once you get that done, everything has to be rolled up into the yoke, and then the yoke seams have to be stitched once I get those pinned. I'm going to stitch those. I'm going to stitch those seams and trim them, and then I'll be back. So now that I have the shoulder seams stitched and trimmed, I have to take the rolled sections out through one armhole. Doing this turns the yoke and everything the right side out, the way you want it to be. Unroll the back. There's the back. Ooh, look at that. Back and the front. Nice. And the seams are all enclosed, so we don't have to worry about those edges. I have to press all yoke seams and press the tab down. Baste my raw edges together, so that would be these yoke edges. Baste those, and then on the outside, top stitch yoke close to yoke seam and 1/4 inch away, which is all around the yoke. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we're going to press everything, then baste, then top stitch. Top stitching is finished. Very hard to see, but that's okay because that's how it's supposed to be. Right, now we move on to working with our sleeves. So the first step is to pin the right side of the placket to the wrong side of the sleeve, and then stitch on the stitching line, which you cannot see the small dots, but on the pattern paper there's 4 small dots, and then the line that connects all of those is the stitching line. So I have to stitch on that, and then I will be back for the next step of this placket. Okay, so I have the placket on both of the sleeves, both of the sleeves stitched on those stitching lines. Still quite hard to see. because it's black on black, but that's okay. Next step, slash between the stitching, clipping diagonally to the small dots at the upper edge, and then do a little Y shape at the corners there so that we can fold them nice, but don't cut through the stitching on the placket. And then turn placket and clipped corners to the outside. So here's our placket. We're gonna go ahead and take it and turn all of this to the outside of our sleeve. Press the seams toward the placket. So we're gonna go ahead and press this first. How am I supposed to do that here? Here we go, there we go. Down to 1/4 inch. Do 1/4 inch on both sides of the placket. Okay, so there's that one, and then I also have to do the upper edge of this down 1/4 inch, and it's the whole thing. Okay, what? In this one it says, pin the pressed edge over the seam, forming underlap. So this, like that. Is that right? Yes. So this one now, we're gonna go ahead and pin, and it's going to enclose the raw edges of our placket seams. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch that. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other. No, I'll stitch that. Okay, that is stitched. Oops, that's stitched here. So now I already pressed under the upper edge of the long end here. And let's see, what does it say? Fold the large half of placket along the fold line, forming the overlap. So that would be right about here, correct? Right about there? No, there. Oh, it would be like here. The overlap here. Do what? Okay, so this says to fold it like this, forming the overlap, and then baste over the seam here. So I'll go ahead and get this lined up. Oh, and it does only show the bolt about halfway up, so I'll go ahead and stitch this. Okay, so now I have the placket. Let's get you on screen better. I've got the placket stitched on the straight side, and then the side with the overlap, it's basted. I actually do use this over regular stitch length on my basting most of the time, So it is actually already stitched here. So the next step is to turn this overlap back in place. Based. So I think I need to actually fold this raw edge needs to be folded in order to go back in the correct place. This goes down here. Like this. No. How does this work? This not go on that, it can't. It has to go up because this goes down. Go like that. It's supposed to I don't think I put the seam in the right spot. So it just won't lay right. It needs to go there. It should actually lay like this. Or does it go like that? That's not right. That won't lay right. No, it has to be this. All right, let me take this seam out and try this again. Just a real quick reminder note here in this piece. These directions for this pattern are not very clear, so I'm actually not very thrilled about how this is going. It was mentioned a couple times, like to do the same piece of the yoke when I was trying to attach the front to the back. It actually said the yoke and the yoke in the directions. And these directions on doing the placket are not real clear. And this is the first time I've ever done a placket like this on a shirt or anything, or a placket like this on anything. So clear directions would be really nice. I don't enjoy having to go on YouTube and look up a pattern. I know how to make patterns, and this isn't really an intermediate pattern. The directions should just be more clear. So I finally figured out how this placket is supposed to actually be here. I didn't have the fold line quite right. It is overlapped over the seam, but the seam's right here and my line goes actually right here. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pin this in place where it's supposed to be. Especially these pieces here. Those are the ones that are the most important to be where they need to be, or else it's not gonna work right. Okay, and then the directions for this overlap is to baste along the stitching line, but I'm going to stitch along the stitching line, which is all of this. And this triangle is also supposed to have a square here to hold everything in place. So I'm going to start here and then do the rest of it before, so that this is all nice and stable and in place. Here is the completed placket on one sleeve. It's not perfect by far, but it'll be okay. I'll go ahead and press it. Okay, so now to fix the seam on my other sleeve, the placket, I mean, this one seam here, fix this. So I need to seam rip that, which that one won't be too hard. I didn't back stitch this one like I did the other one, thank goodness. And then I'm gonna fix it the same way I did the last one, and then I will be back to show you what the next step is. I think it's the pleats on these, but I'll still show you the pleats. So the pleats on this shirt are what is called soft pleats. So I've got the lines marked here on the outside, and on the outside we match our lines together, pulling. Oops, the center of my pleat needs to be out. So matching these lines here, but with the pleat on the outside, just like this. There's two pleats on this sleeve. The other one is right here. I'm going to push it together and then alternate together, lay that down flat there, and put another pin in it. And then we baste across the raw edge here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to both of my sleeves, and I will be back to show you how we put the sleeves into this shirt. So here is the pleating on my sleeves, right there. Now we get to insert the sleeves to the shirt. So with right sides together, we need to pin the sleeve armhole edge with center small dot at the shoulder seam, which I've got center small dot right here, matching the remaining small dots, and obviously the notches. Okay, so we'll go ahead and match up those pieces. All right, so now that it's all pinned, I have to stitch this seam, and then I have to double stitch it, but the second stitch will be 1/8 of an inch closer to the edge, to the raw edge, than the first one. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. Now that the sleeve is attached to the shirt, I have the seam pressed towards the shirt itself. The next step is to top stitch this seam down, and then to stitch the front to the back at the entire underarm seam, matching armhole seams. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this and then get in the other sleeve and do those underarm and side seams, and then I'll be back. I honestly think the majority of my day today has been me sewing things wrong and having to rip it out. I sewed the sleeve to the inside of the shirt so it was right side to wrong side, and I did the double stitch like you saw, so I had to rip that out. I am now redoing that seam. It will be correct, and then I will continue on with what I told you, putting on the other sleeve, and doing my top stitching, putting on my other sleeve, and doing those underarm and side seams before I come back to show you the rest. Hopefully I don't make any more mistakes from here until then, because this is pretty simple to do. So I wanted to show you how nice the top stitching makes this seam look. Here it's kind of hard to see, of course, but not only does it make it look nice, it keeps, or it holds that shoulder seam down in place, and it seems to reinforce it a little bit because of the stiffness and the thickness or the body of this fabric. All right, so here is the shirt so far. My sleeves are far from perfect, but they're really not bad. So I had a lot of trouble with the placket, getting that to lay right so they're not actually even, but it's okay. Other people aren't really gonna notice that, so not too worried about it. So now that we have the sleeves done, well, they're not done, but that part of the sleeve done, now we move on to the cuff. We're going to complete the sleeve. So I have to apply the fusible interfacing to the wrong side of the cuff, obviously. And then I have to press it under on the notched side. So on the top side of the sleeve, there is a notch here that is going, or on the top side of the cuff, there's a notch that's going to match up with the bottom of the sleeve. And that is what has to be, pressed under 5/8 of an inch, and then trimmed down to 1/4 inch. And then with the right sides together, stitch the facing to the cuff, leaving the notched edge open. So then at that point, what that means is to stitch the outside of the cuff, right sides together, so then it can be flipped and then attached to the sleeve, and you won't stitch the top of the cuff closed because the sleeve will be sandwiched into the cuff. And then turn the cuff and press, and then I'll come back to show you how to actually attach the cuff to the sleeve. So the next step in cuff construction, here's my finished, ready to go cuff. This is the top, it has the opening. That is where, excuse me, that is where the sleeve is going to go. They are both finished. Unfortunately, I didn't quite cut them out straight on the plaid, so they're a little bit crooked, but it's really not all that crooked, so I'm not sure that it's gonna make a difference. Okay, so the next step is attaching these to the sleeve. All right, so in order to do this, it says, with right sides together, pin sleeve to cuff, placing, okay, it's going to be, has to go on like this, basically, this end to the raw edge. But placing small dot to small dot. I have small dots here at the corners, and then there's small dots right at these pleats, right on the outside and right about here. So they meet up like this. Okay, and we'll go ahead and pin this. The facing has to be, so the facing has the inner facing on it, and that has to be against the shirt. All the way over here. And the only points we have are the small dots on the ends here and the notch. So the notch on the shirt is here, and yep, the notch on the cuff is right, you probably can't see it, but it's right here. So we match those up also. Ooh, and look at that, that plaid is just about matching really good right there. That's cool. I wonder if it'll match up the same on the other side. And now that the points, the match points are matched up, now we just ease the sleeve into the cuff as needed. And then as usual for the easing, I go halfway, where it's about halfway on each side, and pin it. And of course we overpin. That way our fabric doesn't move and it all lays where we want it when we, where we want it in our finished product. And hopefully then you don't have like creases and things like that. Okay, so here's one sleeve all pinned. I'm gonna go ahead and pin the other one off camera because it takes forever, but I'm doing the exact same thing on that one. And then, I don't know what's up with that. And then I have to baste this seam and then stitch that seam, trim it, and press the seam towards the cuff. And then I will be back to show you the next step of the cuffs. So I have stitched my cuffs onto my sleeves and I have trimmed this seam, but I did not trim the cuff facing. The next step is to iron the seam allowance towards the cuff and then pin on the outside in order to top stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and iron this real quick and see how we can do that, and then we'll pin it. Yeah, that'll fit quite a bit better than it did the first time. So I will go ahead and press the other one and then show you how I pin it. So now we pin our cuff, this side of our cuff, but we pin on the outside so that we can top stitch across and then continue all the way around the cuff. I've never done this, so hopefully we can make it look nice. And I'm going to use, as usual, extra pins because I really don't want this to move out of place. So that's how you pin it. And then I will be stitching, it says to top stitch the cuff close to the seam. So I'll be real close to that seam, catching in the pressed edge of the cuff, which will happen because that's how it's pinned. And then I will continue stitching close to the ends and the lower edge, and then a 1/4 inch away again, all the way around as shown. So I'm going to pin the other one and then I'll top stitch that, and I will be back to show you that finished product. So the cuffs are completed. Obviously no straps, or no snaps yet. The next step is to fold up, press up, and hem the bottom of the shirt. So let's get to the bottom here. There's the hem. It is done all the way around. So we're moving on to the next step, which is the front band. It's just this right here, like the placket going down the front. For this shirt, it'll be what has the snaps on it. So first I have to obviously get my notches cut, and then apply the interfacing to the wrong side of both of these pieces. And then I will press a 5/8 seam on the unnotched side of the fabric. And then it says to trim that to a 1/4 inch. Once I do that step, I will be back. I have both of my front bands completed. Let me repress this. This does not want to stay down. Prepped and ready to go with the fusible interfacing and the edge already pressed. And for the most part, it's staying down. So now I have to attach these bands. Now on the outside of the shirt, we have to pin the bands to the front. So this is the top side because it's the curved side. This side is the side we're going to fold over once we have it attached. So we have to match our raw edges. Okay, hold on. This says to pin the right side of the fabric, or the right side of the band to the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to get this other side here. On inside, pin right side of band to wrong side of fabric, matching small dots, and have the raw edges even. The lower edge of band will extend 5/8 of an inch beyond the hem because I hemmed it. We'll stitch that and then we'll trim that seam. All right, so that's all pinned. Now I need to stitch this and trim that seam and do the same thing to the other side. Once I'm done with that, I will be back to show you the next step on getting this bottom where it needs to be, or the way it's supposed to be, and then getting it turned right side out. So I've moved on to the next step where I have to press the seam and the front band out away from the shirt, and the seam goes, hold on, let me double check. I have to press the seam towards the band. I'm not sure I did that. I did it right on the other one. I did not do it right on this one. So I have the band pressed out this way, but then the seam here needs to be pressed towards the band. So let's go ahead and do that here. I did the other one right. I don't know why I got confused on this one. And I am using steam because I want this crease to be there nice and really good and stay. Okay, so there's that. Let it cool for a second because that is hot, hot. Now, the center of the band is the fold line. So I need to fold it on both sides back on itself and basically meet it right here. So we want to fold it back right here. Oh wow. And then we're going to go ahead and pin it at the seam line. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch right here underneath and then cut the excess off. And we're going to do that on both of the sides. Now I have both of my front bands stitched there and trimmed. We are going to turn them now to the outside along the fold line. Make sure we turn those corners out. And now we're going to press both of them along that fold line. We want to make sure that this edge stays over the seam here that we want to cover. Now that this is pressed, we will be pinning over this seam on the outside so that we can then top stitch close to the edges and then all the way around and then 1/4 inch. So we're going to double top stitch this just like we did the cuffs. So I'll go ahead and pin this just like I did the cuffs, and I will do the other side and then top stitch it off, and then I'll be back. So unfortunately, I was hoping to get this shirt done today, but I have to take a break at this time to start making dinner. However, it is looking like an actual shirt now. Cuffs are on. Here's the placket or the front band. Kind of barely see the top stitching, but it's there. So all I actually have left is the neckband and the collar, and that will be coming tomorrow. We are down to the final couple things to attach. Literally just the neckband and the collar onto the shirt. So I have the interfacing on one side, one piece of the neckband and one piece of the collar, and the other two pieces will be the facings. The first step now is to clip the neckline of the shirt up to the stay stitching. So So that's almost nothing that I have to clip, but clip that so that the neckband will lay correctly. Now with the right sides together, you have to pin the single notched edge of the band to the neck edge. Single notch. Oh, that's this side. Pin it to that. So I have to pin all of this, and then I have to stitch this seam. So I'll go ahead and finish pinning and get the stitching done and be back. So now that the seam is stitched, I went ahead and trimmed it, and I clipped the corners because now I have to press it up and make sure that this seam is up into the neck as well when it gets pressed. Okay. Just edge this a little bit more. Right, now that I have the neckband on, I have to stitch the facing to my collar here with the right sides together, leaving the notched edges. So this edge, leaving this edge open. I will then trim the seam and cut those corners, turn the collar, and press. Here's the collar, all stitched and pressed. Now I have to baste this open edge closed and top stitch the collar with 2 rows of stitching all the way around, I think, except for, so on all 3 sides that I already stitched. We won't be stitching this with top stitching all the way around. And then once I get the top stitching done, then we attach the collar to the shirt. So it would be right sides together, and the side with the interfacing is the right side. It's the collar side. So that will be against the shirt. I'll probably make a little mark on here so that I know for sure once I get it stitched. That'll be against the shirt, against the neckband, and then we'll pin it all the way down the neckband, and we will baste that. And then once I get that done, I will be back for the next step. So I have the collar finished, which you already saw. It is now attached, basted onto the neckband of the shirt. Now I will... on the edge, the raw edge where the collar and the neckband meet, right here, we have to put right sides together and line these up and pin them. I've got double notches back here on the neckband, the collar, and the other neckband where they are supposed to meet. Okay, now that that is pinned, okay, now I have to stitch this seam and then clip the curves to flip the band the correct way. Okay, so I have turned my neckband facing to the inside the way it should be. I've pressed it and I have it pinned here along this line that needs to be stitched closed. On the outside, it says, I should have placed the pins on the outside. I didn't do that, so I will actually, once I get done here, I will go back and take these pins, place them here, put them on the outside. And then you have to stitch closed the edge of the neckband. And then it says to top stitch the collar and the neckband. So I would then just do, it looks like 2 rows, possibly, it does not tell me. Parts of this will have 2 rows of top stitching. So I have to meet the rows on the outside from the front band. This one's kind of wonky and folded up, but I will figure it out. And then follow that up and around and do the same thing with the stitches from the collar, follow that down. So we'll go ahead and stitch it, top stitch it, and then, so I have to top stitch it, stitch it closed, top stitch it, and then the next step is the buttons, but this shirt does not have buttons. This shirt will have snaps. Snaps here, these pearlized snaps, and I got the tool to help me put them in. However, I've never used it before, so I have to go ahead and teach myself. So I'm going to get that top stitching done, and the next thing you will actually see from me in this video is the final product. So overall, the pattern is pretty easy. Some of the directions are quite confusing. Hopefully the second one will go together a little bit easier and have less issues in the finished product. Pretty sure I edited a lot of that stuff out of my video because you didn't see that the front was uneven. So, I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button and it'll tell that YouTube algorithm to, hey, we like this, show it to other people. If you would like to continue to see my videos, hit that subscribe button. And if you want those notifications, go ahead and click that notification bell and YouTube will let you know when I post my videos. Thanks for watching.